the SEC championship, our final conference championship game we'll cover. And I'm excited for this one, even though it's a high spread. There's a bunch of high spreads, large spreads this weekend, but I'm excited to watch these two offenses play at BetMGM. Alabama's a 17.5-point favorite, over under 74.5. I'll keep this simple. I said it last week. I tweeted it already. I don't need to go too in depth here. I said, all right, here's what happened. Florida lost to LSU. Drive up that line. Give me over 17. And it happened, and I got over my over 17, and I'm happy. I don't think this gets to 20, so I didn't want to wait. But if you only have 17 at your book, there's 17 and a halves out there right now. You wait. The whole world's going to bet Bama here. They're 8-2 against the spread, and they're Alabama. They're the clear best team in the country. I don't doubt that. But this line, I make a very, very small touch under 14. So I will gladly take 17.5. And the Alabama offense is elite. I don't need to go there. The Florida defense is not that good, especially against the pass. They're 97th, I think, in explosive passes allowed. That's not great against Alabama. They're not going to get many stops. But I think Florida's offense can keep up. Why do I think that? Well, number one, last week, why we're getting value here in this line is because what happened with Florida last week. And, people just see Bama crush more and more teams. But Florida was clearly looking ahead to this game. And they didn't even play their best player in Kyle Pitts. They had a matchup nightmare. This is one of the top three, along with Devontae Smith, one of the top three pass catchers, wide receivers or tight end. He's basically a wide receiver in the country. They didn't play him. But this Alabama started off the year. They played Missouri, Texas A&M, and then Ole Miss. And after that Ole Miss game, everyone, including us, said there's some questions about this Alabama pass defense outside of Surtain. And then over time, they definitely have improved. That's what's going to happen as you get games under your belt. But now everyone just says, the Alabama defense is fine and everything's great. But think about it. That Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, they threw for just under 400 yards. They scored 48 points. They averaged over 13 yards per pass. Here's who Alabama's played since then. Georgia with Stetson Bennett. He's since been benched. Mississippi State with KJ Costello. He's since been benched. Tennessee with Guarantano. He's since been benched. LSU with Finley. He's since been benched. The list goes on and on. They played then Kentucky, one of the worst passing offenses in Power 5, Bo Nix. And then Arkansas. And then Arkansas, Franks was hurt, played still, then got hurt. And then Jefferson came in. And then Jefferson got hurt. Then Franks had to go in there hurt again. And Franks moved the ball a little bit early on in that game. So my point is that they've really played no good passing offenses. And in 4 or 5 of them, they played backup quarterbacks. So their road has been very easy. They haven't played a top 5 passing offense like Florida has when Pitts is in there. So I think Florida can move the ball and score enough. And basically, this is just, I have value in the line. But I think that they can score enough. Bama's going to get their points to get into the 30s, which is what I think they'll need to do to cover this number. And if Bama's up 21 or 24 late, which is why I think that 17.5 is important. If Bama's up 24, you have Florida's offense and Trask and Pitts to go down there and get you a backdoor cover. So give me the Gators 17.5. If this line was 14, say Florida won by 20 last week, and this line was 14, which was possible, I probably wouldn't be playing this. But give me 17.5. I'm taking Florida.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's crazy because Alabama got done putting an ass whooping on Arkansas, and the line, there were a number of places offering a look-ahead line, and the number was at 12.5. There was a specific place out in Las Vegas where I was making phone calls like, please put this in on the app for me now. And so that number, I was able to get a piece of 13.5 right as Florida and LSU kicked. After that first offensive possession, I'm like, I got to fire on this now, because if this doesn't turn out well, I think the number will be over 14. And sure enough, Marco Wilson's throwing a shoe. Dan Mullen didn't see a thing, and Cade York is kicking a football to Saturn. So, next thing you know, we got a point spread of 17. And that number is crazy. I mean, that's crazy. There's nobody that makes
and a half.
And a half. And I think something – it reminds me of something last year where none of us could power rate LSU properly. And there's this to reference Sagarin has a power rating, but then they have a recency bias power rating where they give more weight to the last couple games. And that was really the only way to handicap LSU last year. LSU 2019 was just a magical season. Well, I got news for everybody. From a success rate standpoint for offense and defense, Alabama's doing better than what we saw to Joe Burrow last year. That is crazy talk, because what we saw last year was one of the most perfect seasons an offense could ever have. And now I'm telling you that Bama, from a success rate standpoint, is better. And by the way, success rate is the biggest indicator of how great a team actually is. So all that being said, we have to figure out, where the ceiling is for this Alabama team. Now, to Stuck's point about this number at 17, it's really important. If you think that Alabama being up by 27 or 24 with 4 minutes left and Dan Mullen isn't rushing Trask and Pitts and Kadarius Toney down the field to get a back door, there's a New Year's Six bowl game here at stake. And JT Daniels is, I know he's not going to get his playing time against Vanderbilt and all that, but Georgia's right on that tail. And that college football playoff ranking matters for the SEC team that's going to get that New Year's Six bowl game. And Dan Mullen doesn't want to be playing in the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl. He doesn't want to be playing in the Liberty Bowl. He won't fall that far, but he wants to be in the New Year's Six Bowl. So trust me, covering the spread is going to be really important, if not winning the game. And listen, Alabama is not going to be stopped. I am going to have a huge write-up on Action Network. Probably had to force myself from quit writing about it, but a few highlights about what's going to happen here. I mean, the Crimson Tide have cruised at 72.2% of available yards this season. The national average is 44%. I mean, they're just shy of doubling available yards, which is, if you start at your 20-yard line, you got 80 yards available. Alabama's just putting up unbelievable offensive numbers, and I don't think that's going to be stopped by Florida. With Florida, you're looking at 95th in tackling, 87th against the rush and success rate, 97th against pass explosiveness, against Devonta Smith and John Mechie and Mac Jones, whose adjusted completion rate is actually better when he's pressured. That's craziness. So, Alabama's going to be able to get whatever they want. And I think people will say, well, Elam is one of the best cornerbacks in the SEC. He is. And he's shown it as in the PFF grading, he's one of the best cornerbacks in the nation, and he's going to get assigned to Devonta Smith. And I think those of you that have a Heisman ticket on Devonta Smith need to realize that he has a shutdown corner on him. Now, whether that's going to stop him, we'll see. But an NFL-level cornerback is going to be covering Smith. So I think it's going to be a big day for Najee Harris. I think it's going to be a big day for John Mechie. I think Mac Jones has plenty of targets to hit from, an Alabama offensive perspective. And when you look at the other side of the ball, that's where I really kind of did a deep dive and say, well, how's Florida going to do this? And when I wrote this on paper, I had to kind of step back and say, I didn't really just say this, did I? But Tennessee lost by 12. Florida won 31-19. And why? Because Tennessee decided to have two safeties and put extra corners on the field and put them in the slot against Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney. Alabama has Malachi Moore. He ranks top 30 in all FBS by defenders by slot coverage per PFF. That's huge. I think Malachi Moore is going to draw the Kyle Pitts assignment, and that's just going to be a good on good, and maybe it deflates Kyle Pitts' numbers a little bit. I think Kadarius Toney has a monster game here. You mentioned Surtain. You mentioned some other things where the pass defense can be a little susceptible. That's where Florida's going to have success. Alabama's not going to be stopped. I think this game is an over game all the way. I think Alabama team total 45 is an absolute hit. This has got 50 burger written all over it. Even if it's 43, 44 points in the fourth quarter, I think Saban will still try to score. Florida first half is at 10 last I looked. That's a huge number. So I like Florida plus 10 in the first half. I would take Florida plus 17. I think Alabama team total over 45. I think those are all the plays that you should hit.
Love it. We have tons of write-ups. I mean, we have so much info that's going out on the Action app for all of these games, for all of our college football contributors, myself and Colin as well. So make sure you check all that out. I'm excited for this weekend. And, yeah, don't forget, Florida has elite special teams units. I don't think it'll decide the game, but it definitely could decide the cover. Bama's special teams, not elite. Devontae Smith could house one, but Florida has the better special teams.